Good morning. Happy Friday. I apologize for the camera angle, looking at my nose. This is the best camera position I could find in this car. It's a rental. Somebody decided to back into my car while I was in a parking lot. While I was parked in a parking lot. Some gal who didn't know how to drive a F-250 that she just purchased backed into me. I'm like, great, thanks. This is what I need. Anyway, enough about me. So I woke up this morning to a screenshot from a Duh Arcy video. I don't watch Darcy's videos. I know that the videos of his that I have seen prior to the copyright claim, I saw a couple of them. He was just regurgitating my talking points in a suit and tie, so congratulations to him. But once I stopped making content on the things he was making content about, apparently he shit the bed because he needs someone to tell him the answers. It's pretty apparent. And since I am humble enough to know that I don't know shit from fuck about copyright law, he's just, swinging in the breeze, as it were. So he doesn't know what he's doing. It's pretty obvious. His video that I did see about, trying to tear apart Randy's complaint, that he shit the bed on that. He shit the bed on the amicus. I mean, he just doesn't know what the fuck he's doing. And he's too proud to admit it. He is a very proud attorney. And so instead of responding like why my analysis is wrong, which obviously it wasn't because the court did precisely what I expected the court to do and called ahead of time, unlike Duh Arcy, who's put out videos hours after the court's made a decision with a correct prediction based on the court already having put out the prediction. Congratulations, dude. But anyway, instead of addressing why he thinks the court is wrong, pointing to law, pointing to fact, yada, 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 which, I mean, there's just no excuse. Instead, he pulls out his dick and slaps it on the table and says that, I've settled or litigated or whatever $17 million in cases this year. Congratulations. And he wants me to provide evidence of $1 million cases that I've done. First of all, no. I mean, I wouldn't ask you for yours. Why would you ask me for mine? That's stupid. Number two, it's a dumb metric because like a criminal defense attorney, like how many dollar value cases do they settle? They don't. They get their clients the best possible outcome that they can, and that's how they judge how good they are as a criminal defense attorney. How much is it worth to have more time with your kid? I mean, maybe not $17 million, maybe more. I mean, you have a different clientele than I do. I'm a first-year family law attorney, and I'm not ashamed to admit it. You are not a copyright attorney, and you're trying to pretend you're a copyright attorney. You're trying to meddle around in copyright cases because your pride has you by the balls. You don't know what the fuck you're doing. You don't know what the fuck you're talking about. And so all you can do is slap your dick on the table and say, look how big and bad of an attorney I am. Look at me. I'm amazing. Except your predictions don't bear out. Your pleadings were shit. And 40 fucking hours to churn out that amicus, the motion to be joined as amicus counsel. Like, you should be ashamed of that. You absolutely should be ashamed of that. Again, even if you spent 20 hours on that, my clients would fucking kill me if I turned out that hot, steaming pile of garbage for 20 hours worth of work. If I billed a client 24 hours, and obviously he didn't pay $24,000. He says $24,000 is a small price to pay for sending a message. Yeah, what message? That you're incompetent? Congratulations. You've sure sent that message loud and clear. I think we all get it now. You're pretty fucking incompetent. At least as far as copyright is concerned and federal practice is concerned, you don't know shit from fuck. And you're too proud to admit you don't know shit from fuck. Like, just... Anyway. So pride won't let him just admit that he doesn't know anything. He'll never get over the fact that a first-year family law attorney saw through his bullshit. He'll never get over it. He has no response to it other than to say, I'm a bigger, badder attorney than you are. Congratulations. But if it was you and me in that courtroom arguing that motion, you would have lost and I would have won. My analysis was better. And the funny thing is that Duh Arcy watches my videos. I know he watches my videos. I know he's watched my analysis videos before. I mean, he took an avid interest in it before I said you're dumb and fucking wrong, and I don't want you to get involved in this issue between me and Eli. Before I did that, he was watching my videos and commenting on it. His videos were just regurgitations of the opinions that I've already put out, sitting in a t-shirt and a camouflaged hat. And he puts on a suit and tie and he reads my talking points. Congratulations, dude. Like, you're amazing. But he never had an issue with my analysis of other attorneys' pleadings. He never had an issue with that. Or if he did, I'm not aware of it. But now that it's him, he has a problem with it. Now that it's him, I'm not good enough. Now that it's him, he's bigger, badder, smarter than I am. So my analysis obviously must be wrong or something. I don't really know. The difference between me and Darcy, besides the just enormous hubris that Darcy has that I don't, the difference between us is he looks at all these cases like he's the advocate for the anti-frauditors. He is putting on his rose-colored glasses, and in his head he's making an argument for his side. He's biased. And because he's biased, he can't see things the way a judge would see them. He's looking at them as the advocate, not as a neutral. When I look at these things, I look at them as the neutral. What is the judge going to do? The judge doesn't have a side. The judge doesn't have a stake in this. The judge isn't looking for YouTube cred. The judge doesn't have an audience that wants to hear all the pros of the side and none of the cons. So when I make a video, you get my best analysis of what a neutral judge would do with the facts and the law as presented in the pleadings. Which is why I don't like people like, oh, you can't know what's going to happen without watching all the videos and all the backstory. Every single Lane Myers supporter was like, oh, you gotta watch the videos. You don't know shit from fuck because you haven't watched all the videos. You haven't watched the 30 million hours worth of videos to know what's going on. That's because I'm not looking at this based on like how I would advocate for Lane Myers. I'm looking at this based on how a judge with the materials presented would look at it. That's why my predictions are pretty accurate. I'm not 100%, but my predictions are pretty good. I got the name Merbstradamus for a reason. It's because I look at this shit like a fucking neutral would. And I look at the pleadings. The pleadings are what the judge is going to see. I look at the attachments to the pleadings. Those are what the judge is going to see. It's a lot harder to predict what's going to happen at a trial because you don't know what evidence is going to be presented. You don't know if counsel's going to catch a witness in perjury. You don't know anything. Those are a lot harder to predict, but motion practice is pretty easy to predict because you can see the pleadings that the judge is going to look at and you can go, well, there's the law, there's the facts. If I was a judge, what would I do? Not if I was advocate, because obviously the plaintiff side is going to say, the plaintiff should win. The defense side is going to say the defense should win. But the judge is going to say, looking at what I have in front of me, based on the facts and the law, this is the decision that should come out. That's how I do what I do. And that's why Darcy can't do what I do. That's why he fails so bad, is because he's looking at it like he's the counsel for the anti-frauditors. And, good for him. He's getting the audience. He's telling people what they want to hear. I don't get the audience because I don't tell people what they want to hear. The anti-frauditors are like, they flood in as soon as I start shitting on someone like Lane Myers. And then they trickle back out because the next thing I'm doing is I'm talking about anti-frauditors. Well, you're going to get a neutral, unbiased opinion based on the facts and the law as I see them. And I try not to let my bias cloud. I don't like Randy. I don't like him. I mean, he knows I don't like him. I've told him I don't like him. Like he's distasteful. But if he's got a winner. The DeCastro case, I mean, assuming that there's money, that's a winner. If there's no money, he'll still probably win. He'll still probably prevail based on the facts and the law as presented in the pleadings. There's been no answer yet, but at this point, he's presented sufficient facts and the law is on his side that, yeah, he'll probably win. He'll probably get a judgment, a money judgment. Whether you're going to enforce it or not is entirely different. Procedurally, whether Randy is sober enough, he hasn't eaten enough mushrooms or gummy mushrooms and gummy THC that he can accurately use his AI to get the proper results. I mean, assuming all that, the Castro's case is a winner. I'm not a copyright guy, but the copyright lawsuit on fraud or troll that I read, I haven't read all of the copyright lawsuits. I'm assuming that they're all pretty much, yeah. He's got at least a good argument. He's got a chance at success. Again, assuming that he gets service done, assuming that he doesn't shit the bed, just based on the complaint, which is all that we have in front of us. The facts in the law say that, he's got a shot. I mean, it's going to be up to the judge whether the judge sees fair use. But he's got at least a shot, right? And you have to admit that, regardless of whether you like RSN, regardless of whether you like DMA, regardless of whether you like chili. The law and the facts are the law and the facts. And you've got to, if you're going to do this YouTube lawyer thing, you ought to give a neutral, unbiased take on it. I mean, it's different if you're, I don't expect RSN to be neutral and unbiased. I mean, I expect him to be a bit of a douche, but I don't expect him to be neutral and unbiased because he is representing Chile and he is representing DMA. But unless you're representing opposing party, you should give a neutral and unbiased take. And if you are representing opposing party, well, then you should be circumspect in what you say. And this goes to not just Duh Arcy, but this goes to RSN too. Neither one of them have been, assuming they're both representing clients on opposite sides of the V, neither one of them have been very professional in the way they've handled this on YouTube. So do with that as you will. Another issue that Duh Arcy has that I don't have is Duh Arcy has minions. And because Duh Arcy has minions, they're the forest guy, or they're the trees guys. So Duh Arcy can be the forest guy. So he doesn't see all the trees. He just can't. Like when you're doing big cases with, what did he say, like 4,000 exhibits that he had to memorize or blah, blah, blah. I don't remember. But when you're doing big cases like that with a lot of facts and a lot of evidence where you need to keep track of everything, you can't really be a trees guy. You've got to farm that out to other people, So he's a big picture guy, which is going to impact his analysis. He doesn't look, if he goes through the pleadings, which I don't know if he does or doesn't, to be honest with you. But when he goes through the pleadings, he needs to look at the trees. The guy, normally he has a guy who prepares his motions and who prepares his oppositions to motions and who prepares his replies to motions. And on YouTube, he doesn't have that. On YouTube, he's got to be the guy. He's got to be the trees guy. He's got to say, this is an issue. This is an issue. This is an issue. He doesn't have that. So, it doesn't bother me that I'm a first-year family law attorney and I haven't settled or tried $17 million worth of cases this year. That's not what I do. I have some current construction litigation. I have some current civil litigation. But predominantly, most of my work is family law. And that's fine. That's fine. And then for other attorneys, I do pretty much everything, which gives me a good broad scope of knowledge that helps me to look at the broad scope of issues that come up in this particular community, which is why I give pretty okay analysis. Duh Arcy seems to be I thought he had criminal defense work in his past, but I think he predominantly just does civil. So his metric of how good of an attorney he is the dollar value of the cases he has, because that's civil. Congratulations, right? But he said $24,000, which he didn't spend, was a small price to pay to send a message. But again, the only message that you sent, Duh Arcy, was that you're incompetent. At least in this area of law, you're incompetent. As far as amicus briefs, motions to be to be admitted to be an amicus, you're incompetent. Federal courts, not so great. Not so great. Federal practice, not so great. He probably does most of his work in state courts. I remember a long time ago I did a court listener search for Patrick J. Duh Arcy, and I didn't see much for him, so I'm just going to assume, assumption is the mother of all fuck-ups, but I'm going to assume that he doesn't do a lot of federal practice. And that's fine. Most cases are state cases. That doesn't make him a bad person. That doesn't make him less of an attorney. Most civil defense or most criminal defense attorneys do most of their work in state courts. So, I guess really the problem is trying to say because I'm good at civil defense work or civil complaints, civil practice, civil state practice, that somehow that translates into me being a great all-around attorney who knows copyright and who knows federal practice, and it doesn't. Anyway, I've rambled long enough. Thanks for watching. And I don't even know why. I guess I do know why. It's just because of hubris. But Darcy, you're trying to dick measure against a first-year family law attorney. That's the position you're in right now. Because of your hubris, because you went out there and thought you knew more than you know, and because you thought you were a better attorney than you are, now you're in a dick swinging contest with a first-year family law attorney. Let that sink in. And losing. I mean, if I do say so myself, because I was right, you were wrong, neener, neener, boo-boo. Anyway, I hope we're done with this. I really do. This is distasteful. You were dumb and wrong. If you were any kind of man, you would just say, mea culpa, I was dumb and wrong, and move on. That's what men do. You were dumb and wrong, and you should mea culpa and move on. Randy's never going to let this go. And if you come dick swinging at me, I'm not going to let it go, but I would prefer that this just be done. Because I don't care to be in a dick swinging contest with you. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.